The morning briefing room overlooked the harbor. Through the wide glass panels, gray water rolled steadily beneath anchored destroyers. Helicopters rested on distant decks. The base was calm, disciplined, predictable. Inside, however, the atmosphere carried tension. Admiral Nathan Cole stood at the head of the long operations table, sleeves crisp, posture relaxed. A decorated SEAL commander with decades of experience, he carried authority effortlessly. When he entered a room, conversations lowered automatically. Around the table sat senior officers, intelligence analysts, and a few recently transferred command staff. Among them, Commander Ava Mitchell. She sat 3 seats from the end, reviewing a slim digital tablet. Her uniform was precise but understated. No dramatic display of decorations. No effort to command attention. That was intentional. Admiral Cole began the briefing smoothly. Operational budgets are tightening. Oversight from high command has increased. That means we maintain efficiency and discipline. His voice was controlled, confident. Ava listened carefully, not to the speech, to the inconsistencies. For the past 6 weeks, she had been embedded at this base under a quiet directive from Naval Oversight Division. Officially, she was assigned as a logistics compliance observer. Unofficially, she was investigating irregular authorization patterns tied directly to Admiral Cole's command. She had studied every signature override, every rerouted allocation, every off-record deployment approval. The evidence was nearly complete. But she needed one thing more. Behavior under pressure. Any questions? Cole asked, scanning the room. Silence. Then his gaze stopped on her. You're new, he said casually. Several officers glanced in her direction. Ava looked up calmly. Commander Ava Mitchell, sir. Recently transferred. Ah, he said lightly. Oversight Division, correct. Yes, Admiral. A faint smirk touched his lips. Oversight, he repeated. That's becoming a popular word lately. A few quiet chuckles circled the table. Ava's expression remained neutral. Cole leaned back in his chair. Tell me, Commander, what exactly is your rank in this structure? The room went still. It wasn't a hostile question. Not openly, but it was deliberate. A public positioning move. Ava met his gaze without flinching. My rank is Commander, sir. He tilted his head slightly. Yes, but authority-wise. Are you advisory, supervisory, symbolic? More soft laughter. He was testing her. And he didn't realize, she was testing him too. I operate under high command directive, she replied evenly. Of course you do, he said smoothly. But here, on my base, clarity matters. There it was. Possession. My base. She noted it mentally. He folded his hands. You understand, Commander, that operational command outranks oversight observers. Her voice remained steady. That depends on the directive. A subtle shift in the room. The senior intelligence officer glanced between them carefully. Cole smiled again, broader this time. Let me simplify it, he said. If I issue an order that conflicts with your observations, whose authority stands? A loaded question. Public. Strategic. Ava placed her tablet gently on the table. In matters of compliance and lawful execution, she answered calmly, high command supersedes operational authority. The laughter stopped, just slightly. Cole's smile thinned. Are you suggesting, he said carefully, that my command requires supervision? There it was. Ego. Controlled, but present. I'm suggesting, she replied, that all commands do. Silence thickened around the table. Cole studied her more closely now. You seem very confident for someone recently transferred. I'm thorough, she said. Another subtle note logged. In her mind, he equates confidence with threat. He leaned forward slightly. Well, Commander, while you're observing, I hope you're also learning how real command decisions are made. I already have, she said quietly. That earned her a few curious looks. Cole let out a short breath through his nose, almost a laugh. Good, he said. Then you'll understand that leadership isn't theoretical. No, she agreed. It's accountable. That word lingered. Accountable. For a fraction of a second, something shifted in his expression. Irritation. He masked it quickly. Well, he said, standing, we'll make sure you're fully integrated into our structure. He tapped the table lightly. Meeting adjourned. Chairs slid back. Officers stood. Quiet conversations resumed. As people filed out, a lieutenant leaned toward Ava and whispered, "You handled that well." She gave a small nod but didn't smile. Across the room, Admiral Cole paused near the door, glancing back at her briefly. He believed he had established dominance. Publicly framed her as secondary. Reduced her authority to advisory. He didn't know. Every word he'd just spoken had been recorded under internal compliance review. Every attempt to assert unchecked authority had reinforced her case. As the room emptied, Ava remained seated for a moment longer. Her tablet screen lit softly. Encrypted notification. Phase 2 authorization pending. She stood calmly. From the harbor outside, a distant ship horn echoed. Admiral Cole thought he had just put a junior officer in her place. He had no idea. She had been hunting him the entire time. By late afternoon, the base had returned to its routine rhythm. Helicopters cycled through maintenance checks. SEAL teams rotated off training drills. The harbor reflected the fading orange of the sun. On the surface, nothing had changed. Underneath, everything had. Commander Ava Mitchell walked through the administrative wing with quiet purpose. Her tablet rested against her side, but the real work was already moving through encrypted channels far above this installation. Phase 2 had begun. Inside her temporary office, she closed the door softly and activated the secure console. The screen illuminated with naval oversight insignia. Incoming file transfers streamed across the display. Authorization logs. Encrypted deployment approvals. Budget reallocations signed directly by Admiral Nathan Cole. For weeks, she had gathered fragments, small inconsistencies that alone meant little. A rerouted supply shipment here. A classified offshore training exercise there. An override of standard financial clearance procedures. Individually, defensible. Together, a pattern. Her console chimed. Oversight division. Evidence correlation confirmed. She exhaled slowly. The financial anomalies weren't just clerical shortcuts. They were concealment. A knock sounded at her office door. Enter, she said. Lieutenant Harris stepped inside. Young, sharp, cautious. Ma'am, Admiral Cole has requested your presence in command. Of course he had. Thank you, Lieutenant, she replied calmly. As Harris left, Ava powered down the visible screen, but not the silent background transmission now routing to high command. She walked toward command operations with steady steps. Inside the glass-walled room, Admiral Cole stood near the central table, studying a digital maritime map. Two senior officers stood nearby. When she entered, his expression carried polite neutrality. Commander Mitchell, he said smoothly. Join us. She stepped forward. We're reviewing offshore training rotations, he explained. Given your interest in compliance, I thought you'd appreciate transparency. Transparency. The word almost amused her. She studied the screen. A small training deployment scheduled 3 weeks prior, listed as classified readiness exercise. Her internal records flagged it immediately. That deployment had bypassed 3 mandatory authorization layers. Impressive coordination, she said evenly. Cole watched her carefully. Efficiency is critical in our line of work. Efficiency and documentation, she replied. One of the senior officers shifted slightly. Cole leaned against the table. Commander, I sense skepticism. Not skepticism, she corrected. Verification. He smiled faintly. You still believe this base requires supervision. I believe all command structures require review. A quiet tension filled the room. Cole stepped closer, lowering his voice slightly. Let me give you some advice. She met his gaze. Oversight officers often mistake paperwork for power, he said. But operational command carries weight you haven't experienced. There it was again. Dismissal disguised as mentorship. Ava tilted her head slightly. Operational command also carries liability. The senior officers exchanged glances. Cole's jaw tightened briefly before he relaxed again. You're very confident, he repeated from the morning briefing. I'm prepared, she replied. Silence. Then, her tablet vibrated subtly. Encrypted alert. She didn't look down. Cole noticed anyway. Important. Yes, she said calmly. He studied her face, searching for uncertainty. There was none. What exactly are you verifying, Commander? He asked carefully. She allowed a brief pause. Authorization consistency across offshore directives. The air shifted. Cole's fingers tapped lightly against the table. You believe inconsistencies exist. I believe patterns exist. Another silence. The senior officers slowly excused themselves, sensing the tightening atmosphere. Now it was just the two of them. Cole stepped around the table, standing directly across from her. Let me be clear, he said quietly. Every decision made under my command has operational justification. I'm sure it does, she replied evenly. The question is whether it has procedural authorization. His eyes sharpened. You're implying misconduct. I'm implying review. Before he could respond, the main operations screen flickered. A secure system notification appeared in the upper corner. External audit protocol activated, Naval Oversight Division. Cole froze. That protocol could not be activated locally. It required high command authorization. He turned slowly toward Ava. Her tablet chimed again, this time audibly. She glanced down briefly. Phase 2. Escalation approved. Cole's voice dropped. You initiated an external audit. Yes, she said calmly. Without notifying me. Correct. A beat of silence. You've overstepped. She held his gaze steadily. No, Admiral, I've formalized. The words hung in the room. Across the base network, encrypted access began expanding. Files unlocked. Authorization chains exposed. Cole straightened. You think this proves something? I don't think, she replied quietly. I confirm. Another alert appeared on the screen. Command Review Board convened. Immediate evaluation pending. The net was tightening. Cole's earlier smirk from the morning briefing was gone. In its place, calculation. You've been building this case since you arrived, he said slowly. Yes, and you let me assume you were advisory. I needed clarity, she answered. Outside the glass walls, officers began noticing the system-wide audit flags appearing on their terminals. The base wasn't chaotic, but it was aware. Cole looked at her with something new now. Not arrogance, recognition. You were never here to observe, he said. No, she replied calmly. I was here to investigate. The harbor outside darkened as night settled. Inside command operations, the first cracks in his authority had officially begun to show, and for the first time, Admiral Nathan Cole realized the quiet commander he had mocked that morning had been 10 steps ahead all along. Night settled heavily over the naval base, but inside command operations, the air felt electric. The external audit notification still glowed in the upper corner of the central screen. Officers moved more carefully now, voices lower, glances sharper. Rumors traveled faster than encrypted files. Admiral Nathan Cole stood rigid near the operations table, jaw tight, hands clasped behind his back. Commander Ava Mitchell remained composed. Her tablet vibrated again. Oversight transmission incoming, Priority 1. She tapped to accept. A secure holographic projection flickered to life above the central console. The insignia of Naval High Command rotated slowly before resolving into the stern face of Vice Admiral Raymond Hale. Every officer in the room snapped to attention. Cole straightened immediately. Sir. Hale's expression was unreadable. Admiral Cole. Commander Mitchell. Ava stood firm. Sir. Hale wasted no time. An emergency review board has examined the preliminary findings submitted by Naval Oversight. Cole's eyes shifted briefly toward Ava. Preliminary. Meaning this was only the beginning. Hale continued, voice steady and formal. Multiple offshore deployments authorized under your command show irregular clearance routing. They were operational necessities, Cole responded smoothly. Time-sensitive security decisions. Operational necessity does not override federal authorization law, Hale replied. The room went silent. Ava watched carefully. She had anticipated resistance. What mattered now was procedure. Hale turned his attention directly to Cole. Further, financial reallocations connected to these deployments bypassed mandatory transparency thresholds. Cole's composure faltered, just slightly. Sir, those allocations were classified for national security. They were flagged by Defense Finance before your internal audit request, Hale interrupted. Cole froze. He hadn't known that. Ava did, because she had triggered the cross-branch review 2 weeks earlier. The holographic screen shifted. A document appeared. Temporary command suspension, effective immediately. For the first time that evening, true silence fell. Hale's voice remained firm. Admiral Nathan Cole, pending full investigation by the Naval Review Board, you are hereby suspended from active command authority. A junior officer near the back inhaled sharply. Cole stared at the screen. Sir, with respect, you will surrender operational control to acting command authority as designated by Oversight Protocol. Hale's gaze shifted slightly, to Commander Ava Mitchell. Every pair of eyes in the room turned toward her. Cole's disbelief hardened into something colder. This is procedural overreach, he said tightly. You're dismantling base command structure based on incomplete analysis. Hale's voice did not rise. This is containment, Admiral. Another document appeared on screen. Detainment authorization, pending formal hearing. The words hit the room like a physical shockwave. Cole stepped back slightly. Detainment, standard protocol when evidence suggests potential obstruction risk, Hale stated. 2 military police officers appeared at the entrance of command operations. Not aggressive, not rushed, prepared. Cole looked at Ava. You orchestrated this. She met his stare evenly. I executed protocol. You've damaged this base's integrity. No, she replied calmly. I protected it. The MPs stepped forward respectfully. Sir, one of them addressed Cole, we've been instructed to escort you to secure administrative holding pending review. Cole's breathing steadied. The anger in his expression cooled into discipline. He removed the insignia pin from his uniform collar slowly and placed it on the operations table. A silent acknowledgement of temporary loss of authority. Then he turned to Ava. You think you've won. This was never about winning, she said quietly. It was about accountability. He held her gaze for a long moment. You better hope your evidence holds. It will. Cole allowed himself one final look around command operations, the screens, the officers, the command center he had controlled for years. Then he walked toward the MPs. No struggle, no spectacle, but the weight of the moment was undeniable. As the doors closed behind him, the room remained still. Vice Admiral Hale's holographic image addressed Ava directly. Commander Mitchell, you now hold temporary command authority until review completion. Yes, sir. Stabilize operations. Ensure continuity. Submit full evidence packet within 12 hours. Already prepared, sir. Hale gave a slight nod. Understood. High Command will be monitoring. The projection faded. The glowing suspension order remained briefly before transitioning to updated command structure. All eyes were still on Ava. Some uncertain, some impressed, some wary. She stepped forward to the central console. Operations continue as scheduled, she said clearly. All training cycles remain active. Offshore units will report status every 2 hours. Her voice carried confidence, not triumph. Lieutenant Harris. Yes, ma'am. Secure all flag deployment files under audit encryption. No unauthorized access. Immediately, ma'am. The room slowly began moving again. Systems recalibrated. Officers returned to stations. The base did not collapse. It adapted. Outside, the harbor lights reflected against dark water, steady and unmoving. Ava stood alone for a brief moment once activity resumed. Her tablet displayed the final confirmation. Detainment order. Executed. She exhaled slowly. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a much larger investigation. Behind the professional calm in her eyes, one truth remained clear. Admiral Nathan Cole had underestimated her. He thought she was there to observe, to advise, to comply. He never realized she had been hunting him the entire time. And tonight, the order went live.